Hey guys, it's Doc here with another of my weekly comic book hauls. I hope you guys have enjoyed this for almost a year and a half now, just as much as I've enjoyed bringing them to you. So, I've got a pretty decent stack this week. Let's go ahead and dig into it. Starting with Star Wars Legacy of Vader, Issue 4 by Charles Soule, Stefano Raffaele. And we get the continuation of the present day with Kylo Ren aboard a Star Cruiser, Star Destroyer, trying to figure out whether or not he can crush a planet physically, not emotionally, not under his boot, but actually destroy a planet. So then we go back into the past where he was on his greatest hits trips of Darth Vader's life, and he goes to Naboo, of all places. He goes back to where it started for Padme and for Anakin and for all of these great characters. So his associate reminds him that Emperor Palpatine himself once lived and came from Naboo, and that he always carried a soft spot for that particular planet. And I'm loath to say this, but it's the reality of things, is that it was almost like Hitler with Germany. I'm not saying that had Hitler lived that he would be had been a loving and kind-hearted individual towards the German people. He would have ruled them with an iron fist, much like Stalin did for a long time with the Russians. But it was a similar symbiotic relationship. As long as Naboo showed their support for Sheev Palpatine, later Emperor Palpatine, then they were given love and support like none other. But Kylo Ren is trying to figure out why this particular place was important to his grandfather. Let's see. So Vanille explains this is where Emperor Palpatine fell in love. And that love, he never let that love go. He never let that support go. So, as you go through this book, Kylo Ren comes to understand, again, that holding on to the past is dangerous, especially for someone such as Vader. To hold on to his past could have possibly held him back. Now, Vanille tells him that it did not. It focused him. And that's why he's telling Kylo Ren, you also must find something that focuses you. You must find something that brings you to your utmost, both in power and in understanding. So this book was really, really good. Go on, Pepper. And so this book was really good. I enjoyed it. This is the only Star Wars book that I'm reading, actually, out of all the different books. But I really enjoy Charles Soule trying to dig into Kylo Ren and give him some layers. Because when I remember watching the movie years ago, I remember thinking to myself, Kylo Ren should have one of the most interesting backstories and heartbreaking backstories of all. And I never saw that character fulfill that potential. So, unfortunately, we're having to fill that out now, 10 years after Episode 7. But, hey, I'm down for the ride. I'm going to give it a few more issues, see where it goes from there. But the action in the book is excellent. The character study is growing on me. And the artwork is absolutely top-notch. Speaking of top-notch, we have Amazing Spider-Man issue 4 with this ugly, ugly hobgoblin. With Joe Kelly as writer, Pepe Larraz as penciler. And we get Peter's new boss here telling his friend Brian, who brought him on board at Rand, we got to let him go. He never shows up for work. He's flunky. He's just not reliable. Meanwhile, we have Peter fighting for his life against Roderick Kingsley, the hobgoblin. And then we get some more of these flashbacks, and we finally realize by the end of this issue, non-spoiler, spoiler here, that these are part of the implanted memories from Itsy Bitsy. So, thank God, this part of Peter growing up never happened. Because to me, it undermined all of the story with Ben, with May, with them doing everything they could to help him grow into a person that he wanted to be, and that they wanted to see him succeed at, and succeed in becoming. So, it's great to see that particular part of the story was just for emotional punch, but at the same time, it'll be nice that we can move on and bring in the main villain next issue, which will be the Hobgoblin. But I do have to say, Pepe Larraz's artwork is kinetic, it's explosive, it pulls you in, and the character design and the character work itself, these characters always seem to be in motion. Nobody ever seems to be standing still in this book. There's always, just as a quick character study, okay, you got Itsy Bitsy there, you've got Hobgoblin. They both look like they're moving and in motion. Even here, you can almost see the subtle nod of the head as Itsy Bitsy is trying to explain, hey, you have somewhere else to be. I need to finish Parker off. You have Peter crawling because of the emotional distress that he's in. You have these two characters with Itsy Bitsy hanging off of a spider web and Hobgoblin gliding in the air with his wings. And then here you have one go and ascend, and the other one descends. So like I said, say what you will about Pepe Larraz's artwork, and honestly, I've never heard anybody say anything negative about his artwork. But I would say that he is doing an absolutely amazing job, and I can't wait to see John Romita Jr. come on with issue 6, but I truly hope that when Romita is done with his 5-6 issues, how many ever it may be, I hope that Pepe Larraz comes back for at least another 6 to 12 issues, because it'll be great to see him on Amazing Spider-Man for a very, very, very long time. Now, I will say that particular scene hit me pretty hard from Itsy Bitsy, where she said that you lost the love of your life twice. So that one was kind of heavy right there. But I think Joe Kelly's doing a damn fine job on this book, and if you haven't picked it back up with this new volume, I think it would be the time to do so, because you'll get so much story, so much involvement, and you're starting to get Peter Parker again. You're starting to understand the character and see the character through a different lens. But now that you know that some of this is not real, then you don't have to question everything you've ever known about Peter. Instead, now you have to question everything you've ever known about the Hobgoblin. All right, this will be under a Greatest Hits. This is a facsimile copy of Fantastic Four number 48, The Coming of Galactus. So the first of the Galactus trilogy, or the Silver Surfer trilogy, if you will. And I was telling you the other night in a Greatest Hits about issue 5 that once Jack Kirby gets to this halfway point, by that point, his character models are much stronger. His inks by Joe Sinnott are just top of the game. And you get to see a much more thought out and well put together first family of Marvel. You can see the despair in Johnny's voice. I mean, in his face. You can see how Reed cradles Sue. You can even see the very first panel of the Silver Surfer. So, like I said, guys, we'll dig deeper into this as we do in a greatest hits video. All right, next up is going to be Absolute Flash issue 3 by Jeff Lemire, Nick Robles, and we're starting to see Flash come into his own and come to understand exactly who Wally West is, what his power set is, and what he can do and what he can't do. Then you get a very, very, very different version of Gorilla Grodd. This is more like Beppo the Monkey. But Grodd touches touches Wally. And they connect. And he sees the pain that Wally's going through. And whereas he was supposed to convince Wally to come in, now he realizes, I've got to be there for him because his father loves him in his own way, but more importantly, his mother is gone. So I might be the only one that truly understands him and truly respects what Wally is going through. And in that time, they go through the Rogues Gallery. We have Captain Cold and all of the other rogues, and they're just trying to escape from those rogues. And in the end, then we get to see Wally pick his own costume. I gave you an inadvertent little snippet of it there. But he's starting to learn that he's not just in one world, but he's in two. And he sees the history, he sees the past, he sees the future. He sees what could be and what has already become. I really do think that Jeff Lemire is leaning into his melancholic storytelling in this book. He's really digging into that something's missing in somebody's soul story that he does so well. And I cannot wait to see what happens next in Absolute Flash. Now, the next book is going to be one for the initial assessment video, but it is Sleep #1 by Zander Cannon, who did the writing, penciling, inking, lettering, and coloring on this entire book. And it's about somebody who doesn't really understand what happens, but something changes within him when he goes to sleep. So there's your one picture there with the disembodied cow. But we'll talk about that more in an upcoming video. All right, and the next to last book that we have here is Vatican City, issue 2 by Mark Miller with art by Per Berg. And this book, the first issue grabbed me because of the history. This issue continues to amaze me with the history that is supposedly buried within the Vatican. You get to see that there were so many stories and histories and mirrors that supposedly told you things, but now they're broken. But the most important thing here is one of my favorite Mark Miller series was his story about the spy who knew that he was terminally ill. And he decided that he was going to right all the wrongs that he had done over the years to innocent people before he passed. And so this James Bond character, who was probably in his late 50s, early 60s, who is dying, tears through the organization that he used to work for in order to come to a better understanding of how can I help these people before I die? How can I find my own way? I don't want to die as this person, but instead I want so much more. I want my family to remember me not as a complete prick, but as somebody who cared. And that's what I'm getting out of this story is that it's moving at the same breakneck pace, which actually I read that it's only 3 issues instead of 4. The other book was called King of Spies. I had to think about it for a minute. But this book shows that even though you're trapped in the Vatican, and it appears that the Queen of the Damned is going to come back, and they're going to finish ruling Europe and Asia, what hasn't already fallen. Instead, you get to see the resolve of the humans. You get to see that they don't know when to stop. They just keep pushing forward. And it's that particular part of the story that really makes me root for these human characters to overcome what has happened to them being trapped inside Vatican City. And the final book that we'll talk about tonight is The Walking Dead Deluxe, issue 113. We are getting ready here for All Out War in issue 115, but we still have this issue where Rick is talking to... I can't stay on one page for too long because we've got violence and all sorts of things. But you've still got this awesome artwork by Charlie Adler, which was originally in black and white. And then you've got building to Rick's forces versus Negan's forces. And like I said, this all comes to a head in issue 115 all the way through, I believe, issue 126. So for those issues, they actually came out, I believe they came out bi-monthly at that point, or bi-weekly at that point. And that was one of the greatest stories that was ever told in The Walking Dead. So to get to reread the build-up to that, and just to remember how badass Negan was, to remember just how strong a grip he had on these characters and how over their lives. They couldn't go to the bathroom and pull their pants down and go pee without asking Negan. You know, this character revitalized the series. Now, eventually, I would say that Kirkman lost his way with the series again. But from issue 100 all the way through, I would say 125 or 126, this was insanely strong stuff. Just crazy stuff that you just didn't see. Between the violence and the profanity and the gore, it was marching to the beat of its own drum. So, if you didn't get to read it the first time, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you go back and try to read this in trades until you get caught up to issue 100, and then try to go back and find the individual issues from there, and just enjoy the heck out of this ride, just like I did the first go-around, and enjoying it even more the second go-around. So thanks, guys, for joining me. I appreciate it. I don't really know what my hair is doing there. Craziness all the way around. But thanks for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we will catch you in the next video, which is going to be the initial assessment video for Sleep Issue 1. Catch you guys then. In the meantime, hit me in the comments and let me know what you picked up this week, what you're reading, what you're hating, and we'll convene back here very, very shortly.